I started noticing the small things first. A coffee mug I didn't remember using, sitting in the sink with lipstick I didn't wear. My favorite sweater missing from the closet, only to reappear 3 days later smelling like perfume I'd never owned. The thermostat set to 74 degrees when I always kept it at 68. My name is Claire Mathison. I'm 36 years old, a data analyst who works from home 3 days a week, and I'm married to a man I thought I knew. Thought. Past tense. The weirdness started small. A lamp left on when I was certain I'd turned it off. The basement door standing open when I'd locked it the night before. Our dog Max, a fearless German shepherd, suddenly refusing to go upstairs, whining and backing away from the staircase like something invisible was blocking his path. "You're being paranoid," my husband Derek told me when I mentioned it. He was packing for another business trip, his third this month. "The house is just settling. Old pipes, you know how it is." Our house wasn't old. We'd bought it new construction 4 years ago. "What about my missing jewelry?" I pressed. "The diamond earrings your mother gave me, the pearl necklace from our anniversary? You probably misplaced them. Check your gym bag." He kissed my forehead, distracted, already mentally gone. "I'll be back Friday. Don't worry so much." But I couldn't stop worrying. The feeling in my house had changed. It felt occupied somehow, even when I was alone, like someone had been walking through the rooms, touching my things, breathing my air. I'd find drawers slightly open that I'd closed, books moved on shelves, my laptop warm when I hadn't used it in hours. I started making lists, documenting the strangeness. Monday, kitchen chairs rearranged. I always push them in, found them pulled out. Tuesday, shower still wet at noon. I showered at 7 a.m. Wednesday, wine bottle half empty. I don't drink red wine. Thursday, Max found cowering in closet. Wouldn't come out for 3 hours. Friday, strange car parked down the street. Black SUV, tinted windows, gone by evening. Derek dismissed everything. "You're working too hard. Maybe you need a vacation. When's the last time you visited Jenny?" Jenny was my sister in Portland. We talked every week, but hadn't seen each other in 6 months. "Maybe you're right," I said, though every instinct screamed that something was wrong. That night, alone in the house, I heard it. Footsteps. Clear, deliberate footsteps walking across the floor directly above my bedroom. Back and forth, back and forth. The rhythm was purposeful, measured. Someone pacing. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands and called Derek. Voicemail. I tried again. Straight to voicemail. I called the police, my voice trembling as I explained that someone was in my house. 2 officers arrived within 10 minutes. Officer Rodriguez and Officer Kim. Both professional, both thorough. They searched every room, every closet, the attic, the basement. They checked windows and doors. They looked under beds and behind furniture. Nothing. No signs of forced entry. No one there. "Probably the house settling," Officer Kim said, echoing Derek's words. "Or maybe pipes in the walls. Old houses make all kinds of noises." "This house is 4 years old," I said. "Sometimes new houses settle too, different materials expanding and contracting." He smiled kindly. "Are you here alone often?" "My husband travels for work." "That can make you more aware of sounds you'd normally not notice, more alert to changes." Officer Rodriguez handed me his card. "But if you hear anything again, call us. We'd rather check 100 false alarms than miss a real problem." After they left, I sat in my living room with Max pressed against my legs, both of us staring at the ceiling. The footsteps started again at 2 a.m. This time I recorded them on my phone. 47 seconds of clear, distinct footsteps. Back and forth, back and forth. I sent the recording to Derek with a message. "Listen to this. Tell me I'm imagining things." He responded 3 hours later. "Sounds like the HVAC system kicking on. We should get it checked. I'll call someone when I'm back." But I knew what HVAC systems sounded like, and they didn't sound like footsteps. By morning, I'd made a decision. I called Jenny. "Hey, how would you feel about a visit? I could use some sister time." "Are you okay? You sound stressed." "Just need a change of scenery. Derek's traveling constantly. The house feels weird." "Weird how?" I almost told her everything. Almost explained the footsteps, the moved objects, the creeping feeling that I was being watched in my own home, but she'd think I was losing it. Everyone would. "Just empty, you know? Lonely. I could use a girls' week. Come whenever you want. I'd love to see you." I booked a flight to Portland for the following Monday. Then I told Derek about my plans. He seemed almost relieved. "That's great, babe. You need a break. You've been stressed lately. Anxious. This will be good for you." Anxious. Stressed. Everyone kept using those words, like my concerns were symptoms of mental instability rather than legitimate observations. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was losing my grip on reality. Or maybe something was very, very wrong. I decided to find out which. Instead of flying to Portland, I booked a room at the Hillside Motel 6 blocks from my house, close enough to watch, far enough not to be seen. I told Derek I was leaving Monday morning, showed him my fake flight confirmation, packed my bags where he could see them. Have fun with Jenny. Relax. Don't worry about anything here. I'll take care of the house. I'll take care of the house. The way he said it made my skin crawl. Monday morning, I loaded my car and pulled out of the driveway at 6 a.m., right on schedule for a morning flight. Derek waved from the doorway, smiling. I drove around the block and parked 3 streets over. Then I waited. At 6:45, Derek left for work. I watched his silver BMW pull out of the driveway and disappear down the street. The house sat quiet and dark. I was reaching for my keys, preparing to leave for the motel, when someone grabbed my wrist. I jumped, suppressing a scream, and turned to find Mrs. Chen standing beside my car. Mrs. Chen was 83 years old, lived in the house across the street from mine, and in the 4 years we'd been neighbors, I'd heard her speak maybe 10 times. She kept to herself, tended her immaculate garden, and watched the street from her porch with eyes that missed nothing. Now those eyes were locked on mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. Her grip was surprisingly strong, her fingers like bird bones wrapped in paper-thin skin. "Don't leave," she whispered, her accent thick with the cadence of someone who'd learned English as a second language decades ago. "Not really. You need to watch." I stared at her, my heart hammering. "Mrs. Chen, what are you talking about?" "Your house. Tonight, midnight." Her eyes were urgent, frightened, darting toward my home and back. "You need to see what happens when you're gone." "I don't understand." "Just watch. From hiding, don't let them see you." She released my wrist and shuffled back toward her house, moving faster than I'd ever seen her move. Over her shoulder, she called quietly, "At midnight, you'll understand everything." I sat in my car, frozen, as she disappeared into her house. The rational part of my brain said she was old, confused, maybe suffering from dementia or paranoid delusions. But the part of my brain that had been listening to footsteps in an empty house, the part that had been cataloging moved objects and missing jewelry, the part that knew something was wrong said something else entirely. That part said, listen to her. So I did. I checked into the Hillside Motel at 7 a.m. using cash and a fake name. The clerk barely looked at me, more interested in his phone than in answering questions about the tired-looking woman paying for a week in advance. The room was exactly what you'd expect from a budget motel. Thin carpet, questionable bedspread, a TV from 2005, and a bathroom that smelled like industrial cleaner and mildew. But it had a bed and a door that locked, and that was all I needed. I spent the day preparing. I bought supplies from 3 different stores so no one would remember the woman buying a strange combination of items. A portable phone charger, binoculars, a thermos, energy bars, bottled water, a digital camera with a good zoom lens, a notebook, pepper spray, a baseball bat. The last 2 purchases made everything feel real, made the vague dread coalesce into something concrete. I was preparing to catch someone in my house, potentially multiple someones, potentially dangerous someones. At 3 p.m., I called Jenny from the motel. "Hey, did you land? How was the flight?" I hated lying to my sister, but I didn't have a choice. Not yet. "Flight was fine, a little turbulent. I'm at your place now." "Wait, what? I'm at work. I thought you weren't coming until tonight." "I caught an earlier flight, got antsy. Hope that's okay?" "Of course. I'll be home by 6. There's a spare key under the blue flower pot. Make yourself at home. There's wine in the fridge." "Thanks, Jen. You're the best. Are you okay? You sound weird." "Just tired. Long morning. I'll see you soon." I hung up before she could press further. Now Jenny would tell anyone who asked that I'd arrived safely in Portland. The alibi was set. At 6 p.m., I ate a disappointing burger from the diner next to the motel, barely tasting it, my mind racing through possibilities. What would I see tonight? What had Mrs. Chen witnessed that had frightened her so badly? Was Derek having an affair? That seemed most likely. Bringing someone to our house while I was gone. That would explain the moved objects, the strange smells, the feeling of occupancy. But it didn't explain the footsteps when Derek was supposedly out of town. It didn't explain Max's fear. It didn't explain Mrs. Chen's specific warning. Midnight. At 9 p.m., I gathered my supplies into a backpack and drove back to my neighborhood. The street was quiet. Most houses had their lights on. Families having dinner, watching TV, helping kids with homework. normal evening activities in normal homes. My house sat dark and still, exactly as I'd left it that morning. I parked 3 blocks away and walked back, keeping to the shadows, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I needed a place to hide, a place with a clear view of my house where I wouldn't be seen. 2 houses down from mine sat an abandoned Toyota Camry that had been parked on the street for weeks. It had an expired registration sticker and a parking ticket under the windshield wiper. I'd heard the neighbors complaining about it at the last HOA meeting, but apparently no one had done anything about it yet. I tried the back door, unlocked. I slipped into the back seat and closed the door as quietly as possible, wincing at the soft click that sounded like a gunshot in the silent street. The interior smelled like stale cigarettes, old fast food, and something vaguely chemical. But the windows were relatively clear, and I had a perfect, unobstructed view of my house. I pulled out my camera, my binoculars, my phone. Everything was charged, ready, positioned for easy access. And now I waited. The minutes crawled by with agonizing slowness. I checked my phone obsessively. 10:12, 10:27, 10:43. Time seemed to thicken, each minute stretching into an eternity. The streetlights cast orange pools on the wet pavement. It had started raining around 9 p.m., a soft, persistent drizzle that blurred the world and made everything look slightly unreal, like I was watching my street through gauze. At 10:56, a car drove past slowly. A sedan I didn't recognize. I ducked down instinctively, my heart racing, but it kept going, taillights disappearing around the corner. At 11:15, I texted my sister. "If you don't hear from me by morning, call the police. I'm watching my house. Something's wrong." The response came immediately. "What? Claire, what's happening? Are you actually in Portland?" I turned off my phone without answering. I couldn't explain. Not yet. Not until I knew what I was dealing with. At 11:40, I almost gave up. This was insane. I was hiding in a stranger's car like a paranoid stalker, spying on my own house based on the cryptic warning of an elderly woman who might be senile. I was creating drama where there was none, seeing threats in shadows, losing my grip on reality just like Derek had suggested. I was reaching for my keys, preparing to leave, to drive back to the motel and forget this whole ridiculous night when I saw it. Movement in the upstairs window, my bedroom window. A shadow passing across the glass, backlit by a light that shouldn't be on because I'd left every light in the house off. I froze, my hand still in my bag, my keys forgotten. The shadow passed again. Slower this time. Deliberately. A person. Someone was in my bedroom, moving around like they owned the place. My bedroom. In my empty house. While I was supposed to be 300 miles away in Portland. I grabbed my phone to call 911, my fingers shaking so badly I almost dropped it. Then I remembered Mrs. Chen's words. "At midnight, you'll understand everything." I put the phone down. Whatever was about to happen, I needed to see it, to witness it, to understand it. So I waited. At 11:52, the basement door, the one that opens to the backyard, the one I always kept locked with a deadbolt, swung open. I could see it clearly from my angle, the white door standing out against the dark siding. It opened slowly, deliberately, and stayed open. No one came out. The door just stood there, gaping like a mouth, darkness visible beyond it. Why would someone open the basement door and leave it standing open? At 11:54, I heard something. Even through the closed car windows, even over the soft patter of rain on the roof, I heard it. Humming. A low, vibrating hum coming from my house. It was mechanical, rhythmic, resonant. Like the sound a refrigerator makes when the compressor kicks on, but deeper, more pervasive. It resonated through the air, through the car, through my chest, making my teeth ache. What the hell was that sound? I raised my binoculars, scanning the windows, looking for any explanation. The upstairs bedroom light was still on. Shadows continued to move behind the curtains. But now I could see light in the kitchen, too. Dim, flickering, like candles. Who lights candles in someone else's house? At 11:56, I heard an engine approaching from the east. I sank lower in the seat, holding my breath, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might bruise my ribs. Headlights swept across the street. A vehicle was approaching, a black SUV with tinted windows pulled into my driveway. The same SUV I'd seen parked on my street 3 days ago, the one I'd noted in my list of strange occurrences. The lights cut off, the engine died. For a long moment, nothing happened. The SUV just sat there, dark and silent, while rain pattered against its roof. Then the driver's door opened and a woman stepped out. She was tall, model tall, with long blonde hair that fell past her shoulders, even in the rain. She wore dark jeans and a leather jacket that looked expensive even from a distance. She moved with confidence, with purpose, like she had every right to be there. She walked around to the passenger side and opened the door. A man emerged. Younger, maybe late 20s, with dark hair and an athletic build. He said something that made the blonde woman laugh, then grabbed a bag from the back seat. They walked toward my front door together, not hurrying despite the rain, completely at ease. The blonde woman pulled keys from her purse. My keys. She had my house keys. She unlocked my front door and went inside like she'd done it 1,000 times. The young man followed, and the door closed behind them. I sat in the car, trembling, my mind struggling to process what I'd just witnessed. Who were these people? How did they have keys to my house? And why were they entering my home at midnight like they owned it? At 11:58, my phone vibrated. A text from Derek. Hope you made it to Portland safely. Love you. I stared at the message, feeling something cold and horrible settling in my stomach. Derek. Where was Derek? He was supposed to be in Chicago on business. He'd left yesterday morning, wouldn't be back until Friday. But what if that was a lie? What if Derek was inside my house right now with these strangers? At 11:59, I checked my watch. 1 minute until midnight. 1 minute until I'd understand everything, according to Mrs. Chen. 30 seconds, 20, 10. The second hand hit 12, and my house exploded with light. 12 why? Exactly. Every light in my house turned on simultaneously, not gradually, not room by room, not like someone walking through flipping switches, all at once, in perfect synchronization, like someone had activated a master control. The porch lights, the living room lamps, the kitchen overhead fixtures, the dining room chandelier, the upstairs bedroom lights, the hallway sconces, the bathroom lights. Even the basement lights I could see through the small windows near the foundation. The entire house blazed against the dark street like a beacon, like a lighthouse, like a signal fire. I stared, my mouth open, my mind struggling to process what I was seeing. This wasn't random. This wasn't a power surge or an electrical malfunction or someone turning on lights as they moved through the house. This was deliberate, programmed, automated. A pattern only someone who knew my house intimately could create. Someone who knew where every light switch was located. Someone who knew the smart home system Derek had installed last year. The one he'd spent 3 weekends programming and configuring. The one that controlled lights and temperature and security. The one that only he and I had access to through our phones. Through the large living room window, the floor-to-ceiling windows I'd insisted on during construction because I loved natural light and the view of our backyard, I could now see everything. The blonde woman walked into view first, her jacket now off, revealing a white tank top underneath. She was laughing, head thrown back, talking to someone I couldn't see yet. Then he appeared. Derek, my husband, the man who was supposed to be in Chicago on a business trip, the man who'd kissed me goodbye yesterday morning, the man who'd texted me an hour ago saying he loved me. He walked up behind the blonde woman and wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her close against him. She leaned back into his embrace, still laughing, completely at ease. He kissed her neck, her jaw, her lips. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach, like all the air had been sucked from the car, like the world had tilted sideways and I was falling. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. There had to be an explanation, but there wasn't. Through my living room window, in my house, under my lights, my husband was holding another woman with a familiarity that spoke of months, maybe years. Not a recent affair, not a mistake, something established, something comfortable, something real. They moved into the kitchen, and I could see them even more clearly through the large windows I'd loved so much during our house hunt. Derek opened my refrigerator, the stainless steel one we'd saved for 2 years to buy, and pulled out a bottle of wine. My wine. The expensive Pinot Noir I'd bought 3 months ago, saving it for our anniversary next month. He poured 3 glasses, filling them almost to the rim. 3 glasses. The young man appeared then, coming down the stairs, my stairs, wearing sweatpants and nothing else, his hair messy like he'd just woken up. Like he'd been sleeping upstairs, in my house, possibly in my bed. The blonde woman called to him, waving him over with a familiarity that suggested this wasn't the first time, or the 10th. She handed him one of the wine glasses from my cabinet, and they all toasted to something I couldn't hear. Then they kissed. Derek and the blonde woman kissed long and deep, without hesitation or guilt or any sense that what they were doing was wrong. 3 people, 3 strangers drinking my wine in my kitchen, toasting in my living room, occupying my space like they lived there, like I was the intruder. The young man said something that made them all laugh, then he walked to the living room and sat down on my couch, specifically on Derek's favorite spot, The corner seat with the ottoman, the spot he'd claimed as his the day we moved in. But the young man didn't turn on the TV, didn't pick up a book or scroll through his phone. He opened a laptop, a silver MacBook Pro that I recognized because it was mine, the one I used for work, with all my client files and financial data and passwords. I watched, frozen in horror, as he typed with a posture I knew intimately, shoulders slightly hunched, head tilted to the left, one hand on the keyboard, one hand moving the mouse, the exact way I sat when I worked. He was wearing my clothes, too. My favorite Northwestern sweatshirt, the oversized purple one I'd bought at a homecoming game 8 years ago, the one with the small bleach stain on the left sleeve that I'd been looking for all week. He was wearing my clothes and using my computer and sitting in my spot and mimicking my posture. Why? My vision started tunneling. Black spots danced at the edges. I couldn't breathe right, couldn't think straight. This wasn't just an affair. This was something else, something much worse. Derek and the blonde woman returned to the living room carrying papers, official-looking documents with blue backing sheets and tabs marking different sections. Legal documents. The young man shifted my laptop to the coffee table, making room for the papers. Derek spread them out carefully, using my coasters to keep them flat, pointing at different sections while the blonde woman nodded. They were conducting business. In my house, at midnight, while I was supposed to be on the other side of the state. The blonde woman signed something, her signature flowing across the page with practiced ease. Then Derek signed. Then the young man, all three of them signing documents on my coffee table like it was a perfectly normal thing to do. What were those documents? What were they signing? The young man pointed at something on the laptop screen. Derek leaned in close, squinting, then nodded and pulled out his phone. He made a call, brief, then returned to the documents. They were coordinating something, planning something that required legal documents and computer access and secrecy. Then the blonde woman did something that made my blood turn to ice. She stood up and walked to the coat closet, the one by the front door where Derek and I kept our jackets and shoes, and pulled out my winter coat, my North Face parka, the black one with the fur-lined hood and the torn pocket I kept meaning to repair but never got around to fixing. She put it on. She walked to the hallway mirror, the full-length mirror we'd hung last year, and examined her reflection. Turned side to side, adjusted the collar, pulled the zipper up and down, checking the fit. Then she did something even stranger. She reached up and pulled her long blonde hair into a ponytail, gathering it at the base of her skull with quick, practiced movements. She used a hair tie from her wrist to secure it. My hair tie. The purple one with the metal clasp that I'd been looking for. With her hair up, wearing my coat, she turned to look at her profile in the mirror. And I saw what Derek saw. From a distance, at a glance, in bad lighting or through a window or across a parking lot, she could pass for me. She was my height, within an inch. My build, within 10 pounds. Similar bone structure, similar facial shape. Her eyes were the wrong color, blue instead of green, but from a distance, who would notice? Derek walked up behind her and smiled at their reflection. "It's perfect," I heard him say, his voice muffled through the windows but clear enough with my binoculars. "Even the neighbors won't notice the difference." The blonde woman laughed, a sound that carried through the night. "Your mother might notice. She hates me already, and we haven't even met." "My mother hates everyone except Sarah and her dead sister. She'll just be thrilled I finally found someone who makes me happy." He turned the blonde woman to face him. Someone better. Found someone better. Like I was already gone. Like I'd already been replaced. Like this was a done deal, a completed transaction, a fait accompli. They kissed again, and I watched my husband hold another woman in my coat and call her better than his wife. The young man called from the couch, not even looking up from my laptop. "Hey, we should go through the safe before Friday. Make sure we have copies of everything we need, titles, account numbers, passwords, all of it." "Good thinking," Derek replied, breaking away from the blonde woman. "Claire keeps all the important documents there, birth certificates, social security cards, insurance policies, everything we'll need to make the transition smooth. My safe, the fireproof safe hidden behind the false panel in my walk-in closet, the safe that only Derek and I knew the location and combination for. They knew about my safe. They'd been in my safe. They were planning to take copies of my documents. Why would they need copies of my documents? Unless they were planning to use them for something, unless they were planning to become me. The three of them walked upstairs together, still carrying their wine glasses, still laughing about something, disappearing from view. I sat in the back of that abandoned Camry, rain streaming down the windows, watching my entire life disintegrate through a pane of glass. And I still didn't understand. I couldn't make sense of what I was seeing. An affair? Yes, that was clear. Derek was having an affair with the blonde woman. But the rest of it, the young man living in my house, the legal documents, the costume rehearsal with my coat, the talk about making a transition and going through my safe, what did it all mean? I don't remember making the decision to leave the car. One moment I was sitting in the back seat, binoculars pressed to my face, watching my house blaze with traitorous light. The next moment I was on my knees in the street, vomiting into a storm drain while rain soaked through my clothes. My whole body was shaking. Violent tremors that I couldn't control, couldn't stop. My teeth chattered. My hands clenched and unclenched spasmodically. Shock, some distant part of my brain supplied. You're in shock. But knowing that didn't help, didn't stop the shaking or the nausea or the feeling that the entire world had just revealed itself to be a stage set. A fake, a carefully constructed lie. 8 years of marriage. 8 years of waking up next to Derek, making coffee together, planning vacations, arguing about whose turn it was to take out the trash. 8 years of believing I knew him, and I didn't know him at all. How long had this been going on? How long had he been bringing these people to our house, living a second life while I worked and grocery shopped and worried about mundane things like whether we needed a new water heater? How long had I been blind? I heard footsteps approaching, rapid and urgent, and looked up to see Mrs. Chen hurrying across the street toward me. She'd wrapped herself in a bathrobe and slippers, her white hair loose around her shoulders, making her look even more elderly and fragile than usual, but her grip was iron when she took my arm. "Come," she said firmly. "You cannot stay here. They will see." "They're in my house," I whispered, my voice not sounding like my own. "Derek is in my house with those people, and they're drinking my wine and wearing my clothes, and—" I know. Come now, to my house, quickly." She helped me to my feet with surprising strength, supporting most of my weight as I stumbled across the wet street. My legs felt like water, like they might give out at any moment. We made it to her porch, up the steps, through her front door. She locked it behind us, 2 deadbolts and a chain, then guided me to her living room. The house smelled like jasmine tea and mothballs and something floral I couldn't identify. Everything was covered in plastic, the sofa, the chairs, the lampshades. Photos covered the walls, old black and white images of people I didn't recognize, mixed with more recent color photos of what must have been her children and grandchildren. She sat me down on the plastic-covered sofa and wrapped a crocheted blanket around my shoulders. Then she disappeared into the kitchen and returned with a cup of tea so hot that steam rose from it in visible curls. "Drink," she ordered. "All of it. You need warmth." I obeyed automatically, the tea scalding my tongue and throat but grounding me somehow, making me feel real again. Mrs. Chen sat beside me, her small body barely making a dent in the sofa cushions, and waited until I'd finished half the cup before speaking. "You see now," she said softly. "You see what I see? How long?" My voice came out hoarse, broken. "How long have you known?" 6 months, maybe more. I see them come every week, sometimes more. Always when you leave, always at night. 6 months, half a year of my husband bringing strangers into our home, into our bed, into our life. Half a year of me being completely oblivious. "Why didn't you tell me?" The question came out angrier than I intended, but I couldn't help it. "Why did you wait? Why let this go on?" Mrs. Chen met my eyes without flinching. "Would you believe? Would you listen to old woman you barely know, telling you your husband brings people to your house when you're gone? Or would you think I am confused, mistaken, senile? Maybe you call adult protective services, have them check if I should still live alone?" She was right. A week ago, if Mrs. Chen had knocked on my door and told me Derek was having an affair, told me strangers were living in my house, I would have smiled politely and dismissed her, would have thought she was experiencing dementia or paranoid delusions, would have done exactly nothing. "You needed to see," Mrs. Chen continued, "to witness with your own eyes. Now you believe, now you will act. If I tell you 1 week ago, you make excuse. Derek work late? Maybe I forget I moved that thing. Old lady confused. Yes? Yes, I admitted quietly. So I wait. I watch. I document. And when I see you preparing to leave, when I see you pack car and say goodbye to husband, I know this is time. This is when they will come and prepare. This is when you must see truth." "Prepare for what?" I set down the teacup, my hands finally steady enough to do so without spilling. "What are they preparing?" Mrs. Chen was quiet for a long moment, her wrinkled face troubled. "I think—" she began, then paused, choosing her words carefully. "I think they prepare to make you disappear." The words hung in the air between us, impossible and terrible. What do you mean, disappear? The blonde woman. She study you. I see through window. I see her practice how you walk, how you move, how you stand. Your husband teach her. Claire does this, he say. Claire never does that. He show her your habits, your way of being. Why would he do that? Because she replace you. She become you. While you... Mrs. Chen trailed off, unable or unwilling to finish the sentence. But I understood. While I disappeared, permanently, continuing in next section to reach target word count. I sat on Mrs. Chen's plastic-covered sofa for hours while she told me everything she'd observed, everything she'd documented, everything she'd feared over the past 6 months. It had started innocuously enough. Late May, just after Derek's promotion at the marketing firm where he'd worked for 12 years. Mrs. Chen had been tending her rose garden one warm evening when she'd seen Derek arrive home early, 3 p.m. on a Wednesday when I would have been deep into work in my home office. I think maybe he forgets something, Mrs. Chen explained, pouring more tea. Maybe need document for meeting, but then I see woman. The blonde woman had emerged from the passenger seat of Derek's car. Tall, beautiful, laughing at something he'd said. They'd gone inside together, Derek's hand on her lower back, guiding her through the front door. I think maybe colleague, Mrs. Chen said. Maybe work friend he show new promotion. But then I see kiss through window. She'd watched them through my living room window, those floor-to-ceiling windows I loved, and seen Derek pull the blonde woman close and kiss her. Not a friendly peck, not a congratulations kiss. A deep, passionate, familiar kiss. Mrs. Chen had been shocked, but initially dismissive. Affairs were tragic, but common. Not her business. She'd looked away, uncomfortable witnessing something so private. But then it kept happening. Next week I see again. Same woman, same kiss, but this time she have key. She let herself in when your car not in driveway. She stay 2 hours, maybe 3. By June, the blonde woman was coming several times a week, always when I wasn't home. Sometimes Derek would be there, sometimes she'd arrive alone, let herself in, and stay until just before I was due to return. Then she start to bring man, Mrs. Chen continued. Young man, dark hair. At first I think maybe boyfriend, maybe she have affair too. But no, they come together with boxes. What kind of boxes? Moving boxes, storage boxes. The kind you get from U-Haul or Home Depot, brown cardboard with handles. Mrs. Chen stood and walked to her window, pulling back the lace curtain to look at my house, still blazing with midnight light. They carry boxes inside, many boxes, over many weeks, always to side door, always quickly, like they not want to be seen. Which room? Where were they taking them? I cannot see exactly. But based on angle, based on windows they walk past, I think guest bedroom. The room on north side, facing my house. The guest bedroom. The room we'd slowly transformed into storage over the years, filling it with boxes of old clothes, childhood memorabilia, seasonal decorations. The room I hadn't entered in months because there was no reason to. The perfect place to hide things because I'd never look. They live there? I asked, feeling sick. In my guest room? Not live, I think, but prepare. They bring clothes, computer, supplies. Make ready. Ready for what? Mrs. Chen was quiet for a moment, her small frame silhouetted against the window. For you to be gone and them to move in, to take over. She explained how the pattern had evolved over the summer months. In July, she'd seen them unloading not just boxes, but furniture. A desk, a filing cabinet, computer equipment. All carried quickly into the house during narrow windows when I was at yoga class or grocery shopping or visiting my mother. They know your schedule, Mrs. Chen said. They watch. They plan. They move things only when they know you will not come home early. In August, things had escalated. Mrs. Chen had been on her porch one evening, enjoying the cooler night air, when she'd heard voices through my open windows. Derek, the blonde woman, and the young man having what sounded like a business meeting. I hear them talk about accounts, Mrs. Chen said. Bank accounts, investment accounts. Your husband say numbers, big numbers, and the young man write them down. The woman ask about passwords, and your husband give them, all of them. He gave them my passwords? All of them. Email, bank, everything. I hear him say, she used same password for everything, just add a number at end. Easy to remember, easy to guess. He'd been right. I did use variations of the same password across different accounts. I'd always meant to diversify, to use a password manager, but it seemed like such a hassle. Now that laziness might cost me everything. Then I see them practice, Mrs. Chen said, and her voice dropped to almost a whisper. Practice being you. What do you mean, practice being me? She turned from the window to face me. The woman. She walk like you. She stand like you. She study videos on your husband's phone, videos of you, how you move and talk and laugh. She watch many times, then she practice. Your husband, he coach her. No, Claire tilts head more, he say. Claire uses hands when she talks. He teach her to be you. The room felt too small suddenly, too hot. I pulled the blanket tighter around my shoulders despite the warmth. Why would she need to impersonate me? Because when you are gone, she take your place. She become widow. She inherit everything. House, money, insurance. Everyone thinks she is you, so no one question. But people would notice. My family, my friends, my coworkers. They'd know I wasn't me. Would they? Mrs. Chen raised her eyebrows. When did you last see your sister? 6 months, you say. When did you last see your mother? Your friends? How many people see you face to face every day? She was right. I worked from home 3 days a week. When I did go to the office, I spent most of the time in my cubicle or in meetings where people barely looked at each other. My social circle had shrunk over the years as Derek and I had become more focused on our careers, our home, our quiet life together. Jenny and I talked every week but saw each other rarely. My mother had moved to Florida 2 years ago. My college friends were scattered across the country, our communication reduced to occasional texts and Facebook likes. How long would it take for someone to realize the woman living in my house wasn't actually me? Weeks? Months? Ever? I hear them plan timeline, Mrs. Chen continued. In September, they say, after summer vacation. They plan something for when you supposed to come home from trip. What kind of something? I not hear exactly. But your husband say, accident must look real. He say, no evidence, no questions. The woman ask if they need to get rid of body, and he say yes, far away, where no one will find. My vision swam. I gripped the edge of the sofa to steady myself. They were planning to kill me, not in an abstract way, not as a maybe if things go wrong possibility, actively, deliberately planning my murder. You're sure? My voice came out barely above a whisper. You're absolutely sure that's what you heard? I am sure. I hear this 2 weeks ago through open window. I write it down immediately after, exact words I remember. She walked to a small desk in the corner and retrieved a notebook. I write everything. Dates, times, what they say, what they bring, everything. She handed me the notebook, and I flipped through pages and pages of cramped, careful handwriting. Every entry dated and timed with precision. May 18th, 3:15 p.m. Derek arrive with blonde woman. They kiss on porch before entering. May 23rd, 11 Sierra a.m. Blonde woman arrive alone. Use key. Stay until 2:30 p.m. June 5th, 2:00 p.m. Derek and blonde woman argue on porch. She cry, he comfort. They kiss and enter house. June 12th, 4:00 p.m. Young man arrive with woman. Carry boxes from U-Haul truck. Make 6 trips. The entries continued, page after page, a meticulous record of my husband's betrayal. July 20th, 10:00 p.m. All 3 visible in upstairs bedroom. Lights on late, past midnight. July 30th, 6:30 p.m. Heard them discussing the plan. Derek said, by September, everything will be ready. August 8th, 9:00 p.m. Woman practiced walking and talking. Derek corrected her posture multiple times. August 15th, 7:00 p.m. Overheard discussion of accident and disposal. Made note of exact phrases. This is evidence, I said, looking up at Mrs. Chen with new understanding. You've been building a case. I am immigrant, she said simply. I come to this country 1975, after war in Vietnam. I know police not always listen to immigrant, especially old immigrant woman with accent, but they listen to American woman with proof. She pointed at the notebook. This is proof, my gift to you, my witness of truth. Why did you wait so long? I asked again, but gentler this time. If you heard them planning my murder 2 weeks ago, why wait until tonight? Because I need you to see, she repeated. Need you to witness with own eyes. Otherwise, you hear this from me and you think old woman make up stories. Maybe you tell your husband, Mrs. Chen says strange things. Maybe he convince you I am senile. Maybe he moved plan earlier, too, before I can warn properly. She took my hands in hers. But now you see. Now you believe. Now we have element of surprise. They think you in Portland. They think they are safe. They think they have time. How much time? When were they planning to do it? I think Friday. When you supposed to come home from sister? I think they plan something for when you walk in door. Maybe attack there. Maybe convince you to go somewhere for a welcome home activity. But something soon. They prepare tonight because Friday is deadline. 3 days. I had 3 days before my husband tried to kill me. The lights, I said, my mind finally catching up. Tell me about the midnight lights. Mrs. Chen nodded, like she'd been waiting for me to ask. Smart home system. Your husband programmed it last year, yes? Yes. He spent weeks getting it perfect. Said it would make our lives easier, let us control everything from our phones. He programmed timer. Every night at midnight, all lights turn on for exactly 10 minutes, then off again. But why? What's the point? Signal. They use it as signal that house is empty, safe to come. When lights go on automatically, they know you truly gone, not just out at store or with friend. They know they have all night to do whatever they need. I thought about it, about the logic. If I was home, I'd wake up when every light in the house suddenly turned on at midnight. I'd investigate, maybe turn them off, definitely wonder what was wrong with the system. Derek would know immediately that the signal had been interrupted, that I was home when I shouldn't be. But if I was gone, truly gone, overnight or for days, the lights would turn on and off with no one to notice. An all-clear signal visible from the street. They forgot to disable it, Mrs. Chen said, or maybe they think you too dumb to notice pattern. But I notice. I wake up every night at midnight for bathroom, so I see. Every night your house light up like Christmas. Every night exactly 10 minutes, then dark again. How long has this been happening? Since timer was installed, 9 months, maybe 10. At first I think malfunction. But it happened every night, exactly same time, exactly same duration, too precise to be accident. 10 months of midnight signals. 10 months of Derek telling these people it was safe to enter our home. Tonight, different though, Mrs. Chen continued. Tonight they come early. 10 o'clock, not after midnight. I see SUV pull in, and I know. Tonight is important. Tonight they prepare something big. So I wait for you. Hope you not really leave. Hope you listen to warning. Thank God you did. Thank God you warned me. I pray you listen. I pray you trust instinct that something wrong. She smiled sadly. Many people ignore instinct, ignore feeling of danger. They think being polite more important than being safe, but you listen. You come back to watch. This saved your life. I pulled out my phone, checking the time. 1:47 a.m. The lights in my house were still blazing. Do they turn off at 12:10? The lights? Yes, always. 10 minutes exact. I pulled up the video on my phone, the recording I'd started when the lights first turned on. Sure enough, at exactly 12:10, every light in my house had shut off simultaneously, plunging it back into darkness. All except the bedroom lights, which remained on. They were still there, still in my house, still planning God knows what. What do I do now? I asked Mrs. Chen. Do I call the police? Do I confront them? Do I run? You do none of those things. Not yet. She stood and walked to her desk again, pulling out a business card. You call my granddaughter. She is lawyer. She help you with law and evidence and how to make sure they cannot hurt you and cannot escape justice. The card read, Margaret Chen, attorney at law, family law, fraud, litigation. She work late. She answer phone. You call now, tell her everything, and she will know what to do. I took the card with shaking hands. What if they see me here? What if they realize I'm not in Portland? They not see, they not look, they think you far away, they think they are safe and secret. You are ghost now, invisible, watching them but unseen. Use this. Watch, document, gather evidence. Then, when you have everything you need, you destroy them all. Continuing to build toward target word count with expanded sections on evidence gathering, the lawyer meeting, and the final confrontation, I called Margaret Chen at 2 a.m. from Mrs. Chen's landline, my cell phone still turned off to avoid any possibility of Derek tracking my location. She answered on the second ring, her voice alert despite the hour. Margaret Chen. Ms. Chen, my name is Claire Mathison. Your grandmother gave me your number. I'm sorry to call so late, but I have an emergency. Is my grandmother okay? She's fine. She's right here. But I'm not fine. I need legal help. And she said you could advise me. There was a pause, then, tell me what's happening. I told her everything. The footsteps in my empty house, the missing items, Mrs. Chen's warning, what I'd witnessed tonight through my own windows, the affair, the identity theft, the overheard conversations about making me disappear. By the time I finished, my voice was shaking again, but I'd managed to get through it all without breaking down. Margaret was silent for a long moment. You're absolutely certain about what you heard? She finally asked. About them discussing an accident and disposal? Mrs. Chen heard it. She wrote it down immediately. She has 6 months of documentation. And you personally witnessed your husband with this woman in your home tonight? You're certain it was him? I'm certain. I watched for over an hour. I have videos. I have photos. Good. Don't delete anything. Don't post anything. Don't tell anyone." Her voice became crisp, professional. "Here's what's going to happen. I'm coming to my grandmother's house right now. We're going to go through everything you have. Every photo, every video, every note. We're going to build a case, then we're going to decide how to proceed." "Should I call the police?" "Not yet. What you've described is deeply suspicious, but most of it is circumstantial. Your husband having an affair isn't a crime. Him giving his mistress a key to your home isn't a crime if it's his home too. Even the discussions about making you disappear could be explained away as metaphorical. Talking about divorce, about you leaving his life. But I'm not saying I don't believe you. I absolutely believe you're in danger. But we need undeniable, documented, recorded evidence of clear intent to harm you. We need to catch them in the act of preparing to commit a crime, not just talking about it. Otherwise, a good defense attorney will shred this case and your husband will walk free, now warned that you're onto him." She was right. I hated it, but she was right. "How do we get that evidence?" "By doing exactly what you're already doing, watching, recording, documenting. They think you're in Portland, let them keep thinking that, let them prepare whatever they're preparing, and we'll be there to document every step." "What if they try something before Friday? What if they move up their timeline?" "They won't. They're planning this carefully. They have a schedule. They'll stick to it." Margaret's voice softened slightly. "I know this is terrifying, but you're safe right now. They think you're 300 miles away. Use that, turn their deception against them." "Okay," I said, though nothing about this felt okay. "When can you be here?" 20 minutes. I'm leaving now." She arrived in 18 minutes, pulling up to her grandmother's house in a black Honda Accord, carrying a leather briefcase and a laptop bag. Margaret Chen was in her late 30s, with her grandmother's intelligent eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor that immediately made me feel safer. She wore jeans and a Georgetown law sweatshirt, her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She hugged her grandmother, then turned to me and extended her hand. "Show me everything." We spent the next 3 hours going through my evidence and Mrs. Chen's documentation. Margaret took notes on a yellow legal pad, occasionally asking questions, frequently nodding. "This is good," she said, reviewing Mrs. Chen's notebook. "Very good. Dated, detailed, consistent. Any defense attorney would have a hard time dismissing this." She examined my photos and videos from tonight, watching the midnight light show 3 times, zooming in on Derek's face, on the blonde woman, on the young man. "Do you know who these other 2 are? Names, addresses, anything?" "No, I've never seen them before tonight." "We'll find out. License plate from the SUV should be visible in your videos. We can trace the registration." She made me tell the story again, in even more detail. Every conversation I'd overheard. Every strange occurrence in my house over the past weeks. Every time Derek had acted suspicious or been vague about his schedule. By 5 a.m., we had a plan. "You're going to stay here with my grandmother," Margaret instructed. "You're going to continue letting Derek think you're in Portland. You're going to maintain that fiction perfectly. No slips, no hints." "For how long?" "Until Friday. We have 3 days to gather evidence. 3 days to document their preparations. 3 days to build an unassailable case." "What if I can't stay hidden that long? What if Derek tries to call me? What if my sister tries to video chat?" "You'll answer. You'll keep up the pretense. But you'll do it from here, with backgrounds that look like Portland. My grandmother has family photos from her son's house there. We can stage shots. Make it believable." I nodded, too exhausted to argue. "Tomorrow, well, today now, while they're gone, you're going to enter your own house," Margaret continued. "You're going to document everything, photograph everything they've brought in, everything they've prepared, find those legal documents, find whatever they're using to steal your identity, get copies of everything." "Won't they notice if things are disturbed?" "That's why you'll be extremely careful. You'll photograph items exactly where they are, then replace them exactly. You'll use gloves so you leave no prints. You'll spend no more than an hour inside. Get in, document, get out." "Alone?" "I'll be outside, watching. If anyone approaches, I'll warn you, and you'll leave immediately through the back door." She glanced at her grandmother. "And Mrs. Chen will be monitoring the street from her usual post. Between the 3 of us, you'll be safe." Mrs. Chen nodded her agreement, her small frame suddenly seeming fierce rather than fragile. "What about after Friday?" I asked. "After whatever they're planning?" "We'll deal with that when we get there. But Claire, we're not going to let it get that far. We're going to have police in position before you're ever in actual danger. This is about evidence, not endangerment." I wanted to believe her, wanted to trust that she knew what she was doing, that this plan would work. But a voice in the back of my mind kept whispering, "What if it doesn't?" The next morning, technically later the same morning, Derek called me at 9 a.m. I was in Mrs. Chen's guest bedroom, exhausted but unable to sleep, when my phone rang. I almost didn't answer. Almost let it go to voicemail, but that would be suspicious. I was supposed to be on vacation, relaxed, available to chat with my husband. I answered on the third ring, keeping my voice cheerful. "Hey, good morning." "Morning, babe. How's Portland?" "It's great. Jenny and I stayed up way too late last night catching up. I'm so tired." At least that part was true. "How are things at home?" "Fine. Quiet without you. I miss you." The ease with which he lied took my breath away. He missed me, while his mistress was probably still asleep in my bed. "I miss you too. How's work?" "Busy. You know how it is." "Hey, I was thinking, when you get back Friday, why don't we plan a weekend getaway, just the two of us? Maybe go hiking at Devil's Lake like we've been talking about." Devil's Lake. The state park 3 hours away with steep cliffs and deep water and isolated trails. The perfect place for an accident. "That sounds nice," I forced myself to say. "Let's talk about it when I get back." "Definitely." "Okay, I have to run. Meeting in 10 minutes. Love you." "Love you too." I hung up and immediately felt bile rising in my throat. He just invited me to my own murder. Casually, cheerfully, like he was planning a romantic weekend rather than my death. Margaret had been listening from the doorway. She'd insisted on being present for any calls from Derek, recording everything. "That's good," she said, marking something in her notes. "That's really good." "How is that good?" "Because he just proposed taking you to a remote location immediately after your return. That shows premeditation, shows planning. If anything happens to you at Devil's Lake, it's going to be very hard for him to claim it was a spontaneous accident." She was right, but it didn't make me feel better. "Come on," she said. "Derek just left for work. My grandmother watched him pull out 15 minutes ago. It's time to go into your house and see what we're really dealing with." We entered through the basement door, the one I'd seen standing open last night. It was unlocked, confirming my suspicion that they'd been using it regularly. Margaret went first, wearing gloves and moving silently. I followed, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. The basement was exactly as I'd left it. Storage boxes, old furniture, my wedding dress in its preservation box. But the guest bedroom upstairs was transformed. The door that had been stuck shut for months, warped from humidity, now opened smoothly. They'd planned it down, fixed it. Inside was a fully operational living space. A desk with 2 monitors, a filing cabinet, a corkboard covered with printouts and notes and photos of me with details written beside them. Nervous habit, twists ring. Allergic to shellfish. Drinks coffee black, 2 sugars. Morning person, gets cranky after 9 p.m. They'd been studying me like a subject, like prey. The closet held clothes, women's clothes in my size, men's clothes in Derek's size, and another set of men's clothes that must belong to the young man. 3 people preparing to live in my house. Margaret photographed everything while I stood frozen in the doorway, unable to process what I was seeing. In the desk drawers, she found documents, copies of my birth certificate, my social security card, my passport, bank statements, insurance policies, everything someone would need to steal my identity, and under those, a folder labeled Final Steps. Inside were checklists, literal checklists with items crossed off. Increase life insurance to 2.3 million add Amber to all social media as cousin visiting, practice mannerisms and speech patterns. Secure copy of all passwords. Plan accident scenario. Devil's Lake hiking trail, prepare alibi. Marcus stays home. We're both with him. Disposal plan. Weighted body, deep water, no recovery. Execute on Friday, August 22nd. Grieving period. 1 week. Amber gradually steps in as supportive cousin. After 3 weeks, announce relationship. After 6 months, Amber moves in permanently as new girlfriend. After 1 year, marriage, full identity transfer complete. I watched Margaret photograph every page, her face growing harder with each image captured. "This is murder for higher-level planning," she said quietly. "This isn't a crime of passion. This is calculated, premeditated murder for financial gain. Aggravating circumstances. Life in prison, no possibility of parole." She found more. Bank accounts opened in my name that I'd never authorized. Credit cards I'd never applied for. Loan applications with forged signatures. They'd been stealing my identity for months, racking up debt in my name while planning to kill me before it came due. In the bedroom, my bedroom, Margaret found something even worse. A calendar hanging on the back of the closet door, hidden from casual view. But if you opened the closet and looked back, you'd see it clearly. It was marked with my schedule. Every appointment I had for the next month. Every time I'd be home alone, every time I'd be vulnerable. And on Friday, August 22nd, someone had drawn a skull and crossbones. Underneath, in Derek's handwriting, Freedom Day. I collapsed onto my bed that smelled like strangers, and cried silently while Margaret finished documenting the evidence that would destroy my husband, continuing with expanded confrontation and finale to reach target. Friday morning arrived cold and gray, with rain hammering against Mrs. Chen's windows like it was trying to break through. I'd barely slept in 3 days. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Derek's face, sometimes the loving husband I'd thought I knew, sometimes the cold stranger who'd checked off execute on a murder to-do list. Margaret had spent the past 72 hours building our case. She'd identified the blonde woman as Amber Mitchell, Derek's executive assistant at work. The young man was her brother Marcus Mitchell, a freelance IT contractor with a record of identity theft from 5 years ago. They're professionals, Margaret had explained. Or at least Marcus is. This isn't his first time stealing someone's identity. He did 6 months for it, got out, and apparently decided to go into business with his sister. We'd filed preliminary paperwork. Restraining orders, asset freezes, divorce petitions, all dated and notarized, but not yet served. Everything ready to execute the moment Derek made his move. The police were briefed. A detective I'd met twice, Detective Sarah Rodriguez, would be leading the operation. She'd seemed skeptical at first. "You want us to do what now?" But after seeing the evidence, after watching the videos, after reading the checklists, her expression had hardened into something grim and determined. "We'll get them," she'd promised. "All 3 of them." Now it was 1 p.m., and according to my fake travel schedule, I was supposed to be driving home from Portland, arriving around 2:30. Derek had called twice already that morning, each time sounding excited, eager, loving. "Can't wait to see you, babe. I've missed you so much." Each time I'd forced cheerfulness into my voice, played the role of dutiful wife returning from a rejuvenating vacation. "I missed you too. See you soon." Each time I'd hung up and wanted to vomit. Now I sat in Mrs. Chen's living room with Margaret, Detective Rodriguez, and 2 other officers. We watched the monitors that showed multiple angles of my house. At 1:15, Derek arrived home early from work. He was wearing khakis and a polo shirt, casual Friday attire, and carrying a duffel bag I'd never seen before. "What's in the bag?" I asked. Detective Rodriguez zoomed in on her laptop, enhancing the image. "Can't tell for certain, but based on the way he's carrying it, something heavy. Tools, maybe, rope, something for staging an accident or cleaning up after." My stomach turned. At 1:30, the black SUV pulled into my driveway. Amber and Marcus emerged, both carrying bags as well. All 3 disappeared into my house. "Okay," Detective Rodriguez said into her radio. "All units, targets are in the house. Maintain positions. Do not approach until my signal." I'd learned that morning that there were 8 officers positioned around my neighborhood. Unmarked cars, plain clothes, surveillance from multiple angles, an entire operation designed to catch my husband trying to murder me. At 1:45, Officer Sarah Mitchell arrived in an unmarked car. She was going to play my role in this final act. Drive my car, wear my clothes, walk into my house as bait. She looked at me as she prepared, adjusting the wig that matched my hair. "You sure you're okay with this? I know it's your home, your life. This has to be surreal." "I'm okay," I lied. "Just catch them, please." At 2:03, Officer Mitchell pulled my car into the driveway. I watched on the monitors, my hands clenched so tight my nails drew blood from my palms. She got out, grabbed a suitcase from the trunk, my suitcase, retrieved from the motel earlier, walked to the front door at my pace with my gait, hunched slightly against the rain exactly as I would have. Derek opened the door before she could knock. "Welcome home, honey." The words made me flinch, made me remember 1,000 other homecomings when those words had been genuine, when I'd believed the love behind them. He hugged Officer Mitchell, kissed her cheek, took her suitcase. "How was the drive?" "Long. I'm exhausted." Officer Mitchell's voice was close enough to mine to make me shiver. She'd practiced, using recordings Margaret had made. Why don't you sit down? I'll make you some tea." She followed him inside, and the door closed. We switched to different monitors, the ones showing the interior. These were new, installed yesterday while Derek was at work. Tiny cameras hidden in smoke detectors, in picture frames, in the thermostat. Everything they did was being recorded in high definition with crystal clear audio. Derek led Officer Mitchell to the living room. The same room where I'd watched him kiss Amber 4 nights ago. The same room where they'd toasted to my death. "Sit here. You must be exhausted." He guided her to the couch, the same spot where they'd laid plastic sheeting on Monday night. She sat. Derek went to the kitchen. "He's getting something," Detective Rodriguez said. "Everyone ready?" Through the kitchen camera, we watched Derek open a cabinet and pull out a bottle of tea. But he also pulled out something else. A small vial. He glanced toward the living room, then poured the tea and added 3 drops from the vial. "What is that?" I whispered. "We'll find out," Detective Rodriguez said grimly. "But I'm guessing sedative. Something to make you compliant, dizzy, unable to fight back." Derek returned to the living room with the tea, handed it to Officer Mitchell with a smile. "Drink up. You must be dehydrated from the drive." Officer Mitchell pretended to sip, bringing the cup to her lips but not actually drinking. "Actually, I need to use the bathroom first." She started to stand, and that's when Derek's expression changed. The loving husband mask dropped away, replaced by something cold, calculating, predatory. "Actually, Claire, I think we need to talk first." Amber emerged from the hallway, then Marcus. Officer Mitchell's hand moved toward her concealed weapon, but she didn't draw it. Not yet. They needed more. "Who are they?" She played confused, frightened. "Derek, what's going on?" "These are my friends," Derek said, his voice flat. "My real friends, not like you, the nagging, boring, useless wife I've been saddled with for 8 years." "Excuse me?" "Oh, drop the act." Derek stepped closer. "I'm done pretending. Done playing the dutiful husband to a woman who contributes nothing except complaints and expectations." Amber laughed. "He's been planning this for months, Claire. We all have. And you never suspected a thing. You're even dumber than he said." Officer Mitchell stood very still, her body language perfect, exactly how I'd stand if I were confused and frightened. "Planning what?" Derek picked up something from behind the couch. "Rope, pre-cut lengths with loops already tied." "Your tragic death, obviously." His voice was casual, like he was discussing the weather. "A terrible accident. You came home from your trip, but you never made it inside safely. You slipped on the wet porch, hit your head, tumbled down the stairs. So sad, so sudden." He moved closer, rope in hand. "Your grieving husband inherits everything. The house, the insurance money, the accounts you stupidly put in joint names. After a tasteful period of mourning, I'll introduce everyone to Amber. She'll move in as my girlfriend. Eventually, we'll marry. And everyone will think how wonderful it is that I found love again after such tragedy." "But I won't just be his girlfriend," Amber added, smiling. "I'll be you first. Your grieving cousin, here to help poor Derek through his loss. I'll access your accounts, sign documents as you, transfer everything we need. By the time anyone realizes you're dead, I'll have already become you in all the ways that matter." Marcus spoke up from his position by the door, holding a phone. "I've already got the accounts ready. All we need is for you to be gone, and I can complete the transfers. New passwords, new security questions, new everything. You'll be erased from existence, and Amber takes your place." This was it. The confession. The threat. Everything on camera, everything recorded. Officer Mitchell pulled her badge, but before she could speak, Derek lunged. He moved faster than I'd thought possible, the rope in his hands, reaching for her throat. And every door and window in my house exploded inward simultaneously. "Police! Get down! Get down now!" 8 officers in tactical gear poured through the doors. Front, back, side entrance, basement. They moved like a coordinated machine, weapons drawn, voices overlapping in commands. Derek froze mid-lunge, the rope still in his hands, his face shifting from murderous intent to shock to pure terror in the span of 2 seconds. Amber screamed, her hands flying up in surrender. Marcus tried to run, diving for the back door, but an officer tackled him before he made it 3 steps. His phone skittered across the floor, evidence of all the accounts he'd been prepared to steal. In less than 30 seconds, all 3 were on the ground, handcuffed, surrounded by armed officers reading them their rights. Derek was screaming now, his voice high and panicked. "This is a setup. She entrapped me. This isn't legal. I want a lawyer." "You'll get one," Detective Rodriguez said coldly, stepping over his prone form. "You'll get the best public defender our tax dollars can buy. And then you'll need him to explain why there are cameras in every room showing you attempting to murder a police officer." Amber was crying, her careful makeup running down her face. "I didn't know. I thought we were just stealing money. I didn't know he was going to kill her." "Save it for your lawyer," another officer said, hauling her to her feet. Marcus stayed silent, smart enough to know nothing he said would help now. I watched it all from Mrs. Chen's living room, unable to move, unable to breathe, unable to process that it was actually over. Margaret squeezed my shoulder. "You did it. You survived." But I didn't feel like a survivor. I felt like a ghost. The arrests happened at 2:17 p.m. By 3:30, all 3 were in holding cells. By 4, search warrants were in motion. By 6, their entire conspiracy was exposed. Margaret and Detective Rodriguez walked me through everything. Marcus had documented every detail of their plan. Files labeled identity transfer, spreadsheets of stolen accounts, forged documents, and worst of all, videos. He'd recorded everything for insurance. The first video was 6 months old. Derek and Amber in my bed, drinking my wine. Amber asked when he'd tell me he wanted a divorce. Derek just laughed. If I divorce Claire, I lose half. If she dies, I get everything. Insurance pays out $4.6 million with accidental death. He said it casually, like discussing errands. Another video showed Marcus being recruited. Derek pitched it like a business deal, not killing, just staging an accident. Marcus asked for 20% of the insurance money and new identities. Derek agreed. Then came recordings of Amber practicing my signature, Derek teaching her my habits, Marcus creating fake accounts, footage of them in my house wearing my clothes, moving through my routines like actors preparing for a role. The worst video was the 3 of them at my kitchen table planning my accident at Devil's Lake. A cliff, low trail traffic, a push disguised as a slip. They even rehearsed their alibis, Amber as the grieving cousin, Marcus as the convenient witness, Derek as the devastated husband. Detective Rodriguez explained why Marcus filmed everything. He'd been in prison before and didn't trust his partners. His paranoia became the prosecution's jackpot. The district attorney called it the most documented attempted murder he'd ever seen. All 3 pled guilty. Derek received 25 to life. Amber, 20 years. Marcus, 15 years. And somehow even that didn't feel like enough. Derek signed the divorce papers without a word. The house, savings, and retirement all came to me. I canceled the life insurance. I didn't want that shadow over my life. I returned to work after 3 weeks. People had questions, but I shut them down gently. Outwardly, I was fine. Inwardly, I wasn't. I startled at footsteps, avoided strangers, and lived in constant alertness. My therapist called it PTSD. I called it survival. 2 months later, a letter from Derek arrived. 3 handwritten pages. He claimed he'd always loved me, but loved freedom more. He wrote about his selfishness, his craving for novelty, his belief that stability meant boredom. He called himself broken, admitted the affair, the lies, the planning. He apologized for the trauma, the betrayal, the fear he'd caused. He told me to live loudly, live fully, live a life he had tried to take from me. It wasn't an excuse. It wasn't manipulation. It was just a man facing the wreckage he'd created. I folded the letter and put it in a box labeled evidence of who he was. I never responded. It was the last piece of the story, and the true end,